Hey,
All
how's it
right.
going, everybody? Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. How's it going?
Yeah, how's everyone doing out there?
Looks like we're live, ready to go. So, guys, we're still using StreamYard, so it's a little weird because we're not sure whether we're live, but I think we're live. It looks like we've got a couple of
Yes.
viewers on right now.
Yep, we
So
are.
I am Radlin Mendoza, and this is my law partner and husband, John Gardner, and we are attorneys and the owners at Gardner Mendoza Immigration Law in Virginia Beach. We've been around for, believe it or not, 20 years. This is our 20th year anniversary, and we come to you guys live every single Sunday night now at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to answer your immigration questions and give you the most recent immigration update. So what, John, are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, happy
tonight?
belated St. Patrick's Day to our Irish friends out there.
Yes.
And I'm, as you said, I'm John Gardner, Johnny Cash tonight, the Black on Black.
Black on Black.
Yeah.
Like it.
Johnny Cash action here. Tonight we are going to be doing, the first thing we're going to do is something we do every week, which is an immigration inspirational story of the week, where we feature someone famous, someone not famous, a community, a friend, a client. But as long as it's a inspirational immigration story, then we like to feature it. So if you have one that you'd like for us to feature, let us know and we will absolutely do it. And it's easy for us to find. There are a lot of very inspirational immigration stories. So it's easy for us to do that every week, and we really enjoy it. The second thing we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking more about the Biden proposed immigration legislation. I'm sure that all of you have seen bits and pieces here and there. We talked about it in a broad sense last week, the Senate bill. The House passed a couple of bills tracking the language. So I'm going to get into that, kind of a deep dive. I'll try to make it as interesting as possible. I know sometimes when
Very interesting.
Well, when you get down to nuts and bolts of some of the legislation, it's not always super exciting, but this is kind of fun because I think a lot of you will be aware of what it's all about, and you'll be curious to see whether it's something that may help you or someone that you know. And then lastly, and most importantly, the thing we really like to do the most here is answer questions. And so if you have a question, please put it in the comments, and Radlin is going to answer it for you. Right?
Okay, you might answer it. I'm going to give it a shot for sure.
Yeah, Radlin is our on-the-fly, real-time answering questions extraordinaire.
Oh, thank you, honey. We'll see how it goes. Y'all give me your best.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my best tonight in answering the questions.
So if you have a question, put it in there. I will warn you about one thing. What we do here is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not technically legal advice. But with that said, we still like for you to give us legal questions. And like I said, Radlin will answer them.
I'll try for sure. Absolutely. Yes, please put your questions. That is why we are here. And we've been kind of fooling around with the times and the days. And so we did Wednesday night at, was it 6 p.m. for almost a whole year. And we just have recently switched it to Sunday night at 8 p.m. Hopefully this is a good time. We want to try to reach as many people as possible because I know there are a lot of people out there with questions. Sometimes your questions are going to hold you back from filing your case and doing probably the most important thing in your life, and that is to get your immigration stuff squared away. So that's why we're here. And it all started with giving COVID updates. We still give updates when we get them. Thankfully, things have settled down in that area, but we're still here. We're still here every week for you guys. So please write your questions in. That's why we're here. All right. I think we've nailed that one in the head too many times already.
Okay. So with that said, why don't we get started with our inspirational immigration story of the week?
All right. So the immigration inspiration story of the week this week is going to go to a whole community in Chesapeake. So John and I, we went with some of our family members to get the vaccine on Saturday evening, early evening, 5:30. And we really had no idea how this was going to go. And the location of the vaccination, it was at the Hindu temple in Chesapeake. So we had no idea what to expect. And My cousin, who was a nurse, helped us register. It was all very last minute. And my dad was there, my sister was there, and John and I were there. Saw a couple of friends in the line as well. And I just have to, John and I were just both completely blown away by just how organized it was, how quickly it went, how many volunteers there were in the Indian community, just serving all day long from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6:30 at night. And I just was totally impressed, blown away, and just really just I don't even have words because
well, you're right. I mean, we had no idea what to expect, and we'd
Right.
heard all the different stories about long waits, and it was just remarkably efficient. It was set up really well. Everything just kept moving. We got in, and it was organized, and the paperwork was ready, and you go here, sit there, and boom, we were done. I mean,
We're done.
It was
Yes.
awesome. Really impressive.
And everybody, again, even though they had been there all day long, because there at 6:30, everyone just had the positive energy. They were happy to be there because they're serving the community. They were there to serve, and that's really what this is all about. And so our hats off to the Indian community, the Hindu temple in Chesapeake.
Yep.
The bonus was we ran into several people that have gone through the doors of Gardner Mendoza, and that was extra special. And just to see some of our clients again giving back to their community, giving back to all of Hampton Roads, and that is our immigration story of the week. And it was inspiring. John and I talked about it all night long. In fact,
yes. It put us in the mood for Indian food.
Right?
So we went on a date afterward.
We went on a date night, post-COVID shot.
A huge meal. I was not well for a while there.
He ate too much naan. I was totally fine. I had one little piece of naan. I ate a lot of rice. He, 3/4 of the way through the meal, and I was still going strong. And John was just he had eaten too much naan.
Yes. As my late father used to say, I ate too much, I ate too fast. I'm not a well man. I was not a well man.
That shot made us hungry. It really did. Anyhow, all right. So what else is on deck today? John is going to give the immigration updates. I'm going to, just kind of monitor, see if there are any questions. Again, please write your questions in. Once we go through what's going on with the Biden immigration reform bill, we will answer the questions. We're here until 9.
Yep.
So please write your questions in, and I will monitor and check it out.
Yeah. So this is the immigration legislation. Now, remember, this is not new law. This is just a bill that was introduced and is being debated right now. So we keep trying to remind people that there's nothing to do right now. There's nothing to file right now. This is all just completely up in the air. But it is something. And so we're going to talk about what's been proposed. I'm going to where it is and what we might, hope for in the future with this. We'll see. But let's just quickly review. Okay. So last month, the Senate introduced a bill called the U.S. Citizenship Act. Okay. This was a very comprehensive immigration bill that is contained many different parts. But the major parts were the lawful prospective immigrant status, the adjustment of status to LPR for those folks, the DREAM Act, the American Promise Act, the Agricultural Workers Adjustment Act. Okay, those were the really biggies, and they dealt with things like TPS, farm workers, the Dreamers, those who have existing DACA status right now. And it created a new category as well, which was the lawful prospective immigrant status. All right. That was the one that was going to be the real heavy lift. Okay. The Dreamers, the TPS, the agricultural workers, honestly, have a lot more support, at least legislatively and in the Congress. And the other section was going to be the heavier lift. So got introduced in the Senate. Not much has happened with it other than, it looked like too heavy of a lift in its proposed form. And already everybody was kind of tamping down expectations about where it may go. All right. In the meantime, on Thursday, the House of Representatives, they passed two bills out of the House. And essentially what they did, they took some of the sections out of the Senate's bill, and then they passed their own bills. It's not exactly the same, but they passed two bills that have very similar language. And so they took the DREAM Act and the American Promise Act, and they passed one bill out of the House called the American Dream and Promise Act. So it will address DACA, Dreamers, and TPS, Temporary Protected Status, right? Then they also took the Agricultural Workers Adjustment Act. That was the section in the Senate bill dealing with agricultural workers, and they passed their own version, which is called the, oh, I had it a second ago, I'm sorry. The agricultural, well, I'll get to it in a minute. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The Farm Workforce Modernization Act. That's what the bill out of the House is called. Okay, so those are the two bills that came out of the House. And the language is very similar to the Senate. Okay. One of them is the DREAM Act. Okay, this would be an adjustment of status to LPR for non-citizens who entered the U.S. as children. And what this bill would do, and before I get into the nuts and bolts of what's in it, I should mention there's some slight encouragement here because these bills came out of the House with some Republican support. And so passed with all Democrats voting for it, including, I think, 10 Republicans, 9 or 10 Republicans. So when these go over to the Senate, obviously the support is not as good there, but maybe something will come out of it. The Senate will then be able to take these two bills from the House. They can make a change to it. They can add on, they can take things out, and then send it back to the House. And if the House and the Senate can reconcile the two bills, then they can send it to the president's desk for a signature so that it can become law, all right? And that would be something that could happen without this entire comprehensive bill passing. It would just leave that other stuff for a later date, all right? So what the DREAM Act, that's the portion of this, one portion of it, this would provide adjustment of status to lawful permanent resident for non-citizens who entered the U.S. as children, as I said. This bill provides a very special, streamlined process for those who already have DACA. And so they can adjust to lawful permanent resident, and that's going to happen first. They're going to be in the front of the line. This is going to happen very quickly and efficiently if it goes through as written at the moment. Anyone doing this, of course, would be subject to a criminal background check. You'd have to be under 18 years of age when you entered the U.S., and you will have to have earned a high school diploma, a GED or equivalent, have earned a degree from an institution of higher education, or completed at least 2 years of a program leading to a bachelor's degree, or served in the uniformed services for at least 2 years, or are able to demonstrate earned income for at least 3 years in the U.S. with valid work authorization. All right. You'd also have to establish that you've registered under the Military Selective Service Act, and your spouse and children, if you have them, will not have to file separately, so they could just write on your application. All right. So that's the DREAM Act part of the House's American Dream and Promise Act. Okay. The Promise Act portion of it grants lawful permanent resident status to nationals who have been designated for temporary protected status, TPS. They will also be, if you're in that category, if you're applying for it, you also would be subject to a criminal background check. Again, your spouse and children would not have to file separately. They could be with you. You have to show that you have continuously present in the United States since January 1st, 2017, and that you are a national of a foreign state that was designated for TPS on January 1st, 2017. Okay, so that's the second part of the House's bill. Now, the other House bill is the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. And again, that was the Agricultural Workers Adjustment Act when it was in the Senate. And this will grant lawful permanent resident status to a non-citizen who has performed agricultural labor or services for at least 2,300 hours or 400 work days during the 5-year period preceding the date the non-citizen submits their application. Again, this is subject to criminal background checks. And again, spouse and children can apply on the same application as the applicant. They don't have to have separate applications. I will tell you that the Farm Workforce Modernization Act seems to have the most legislative support right out of the gate. So it seems like the most likely to get through the Senate. The American Dream and Promise Act has certainly more support than a lot of the rest of the Senate bill, because again, this is the one dealing with children, many of them who came to the United States when they were very young and had no control over it at all. If they went back to their country of birth, they would be going back to places where they perhaps now have no family, don't speak the language, so on and so forth. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's encouraging. I know a lot of people really want a big comprehensive immigration reform bill, and we count in that category. We're definitely in that category as well. But at the moment, I guess we'll take what we can get. And if these parts can go through and the rest of it gets pushed down the road to another date for debate, then so be it. We'll take what we can get for now.
Right. And a lot of people don't agree with that. So many people sort of take an all or nothing approach, and there's definitely more that can be added here, but it is what it is going to be. And with just the margins, slim margins with regard to the votes, we'll take what we can get. I mean, John and I have been waiting for immigration reform since our law firm started, really. That was for 20 years. I mean,
that's the thing. When you want the major bill, I mean, obviously that would be ideal, but we've been doing this for 20 years, and there's always been talk about that. And we just get excited with things like when 245I went through, or DACA went through originally during the Obama administration. Right. These maybe are smaller wins, but we'll take some smaller wins over no wins at all. So we'll keep you posted on this, see what happens with it. And, maybe I'm dead wrong. Maybe it all just, maybe everyone plays hardball and, it all gets passed. But the problem is that if you do that, then maybe none of it gets passed. As Radlin just said, we're in an intensely divided. I'm 52 years old. I've seen a lot of division in the country.
I'm much younger.
I really don't feel like I've seen this kind of division. It's very, very stark. And so, and I just mean that the sides are on such different, polar ends from one another right now. There doesn't seem to be much room in the middle for anyone to sit. And I think the House is divided. I think the Democrats have a 9 or 10 vote majority there, which is the slimmest margin I've seen of any party have. It's a 50-50 split in the Senate. I don't think I've seen that either. So it's like, razor thin margins, like Radlin said. So if you want this stuff to keep pushing forward, call whoever's in your district and tell them that you support this. Okay, I guarantee that they will be monitoring the public's mood and the public's appetite for these bills. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
we've got questions.
Okay.
So
you
excited.
Get some questions. After you answer some questions, I'm going to come back and just briefly discuss when I kept saying that you'd be subject to a criminal background check. I want to dig down a little bit and tell you what that actually entails. All right.
Okay. So I'm going to show Gabby's question, which is a really good question. I love this question. How bad is it when you make some mistakes, wrong date, when you became a permanent resident, and when you click no and should have been yes? I have the support for the yes answer. What should I do in this case? So Gabby, I am assuming that you're applying for U.S. citizenship from the question, because you mentioned that you're already a permanent resident. So whether it's the N-400 application or the green card application, the I-45, or the 765, or whatever application it is that you file with USCIS, and you have an interview and you have to go appear at an interview, Gabby, you can go and tell the officer right off the bat at your interview that you need to make some changes to your application. So you got the date wrong on your permanent residency. You want to change that on the application. You clicked no for an answer and should have been yes. Let's just assume, and Gabby, I'm not, saying this is yours. This is just a hypothetical. Let's just assume that, you forgot to put down a speeding ticket in the question, have you ever been arrested, cited, charged, indicted? Maybe you thought, oh, cited. Okay, I didn't put my speeding ticket down because this is arrested, charged, none of that. But cited is a citation. It's a ticket. You know about tickets, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we always list the ticket. And, sometimes we do have to change that no answer to yes, maybe because something has happened from the time that we filed for a client. Maybe the client got a speeding ticket, or they just forgot to tell us. That's not always ideal. We like to have full information on the application, but it can be fixed. So don't worry too much, because you just have to go in there and explain why. And I like to do it sooner rather than later in the interview, just so it's out there and the officer knows that the application is still open during your interview. So you can make the changes. The officer will have you sign off on the changes. So hopefully that has helped. Gabby, if you have any other follow-up questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you. So that's a great question. I am on TikTok now. I'm doing 1-minute videos, and they've been super fun and informational. So you guys check out my TikTok. Just started. I probably have like a dozen videos up, and it's RAD Immigration Lawyers, R-A-D Immigration Lawyers. And this is one of the things that I mentioned. A lot of people will not file their citizenship application because, gosh, I don't know, the apartment number to the place where I lived 4.5 years ago, and it's asking for my last 5 years residency. Don't let these things hold you back. I'm not saying, purposely put wrong information on your N-400 application. But what I am saying is that, write your apartment number in, put an asterisk next to it and say, I think it was apartment 101, but it could have been 102. The officer, trust me, does not care about that particular address. So anyhow, great question. Let me see if...
Yeah, the TikToks are great.
Oh, thanks, honey. John is supporting my creative lawyer. I'm so not creative, but it's been fun making them, and they're 1 minute. Apparently, everybody's attention span is extremely short, so they're only 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. At the tick that you're doing TikToks, when we got married, I knew that I would never be bored.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. All right. Miss Evelina says, hello. How are you? Great to see you. I'm so excited for you. John and I are so excited for you. The whole team is. So thank you for popping on to our Facebook Live, and thank you everyone for coming to our Facebook Live tonight. So let me put another question up on the board here. Let's see. Is there any delay in N-400 interview dates in California USCIS office? Our estimated date ends in February. So, I don't know specifically. There are delays across the board with regard to USCIS. Some field offices worse than others. So Registry is waiting for the N-400 interview for the examination to take the test to become a U.S. citizen. And yes, there are definitely some backlogs. California, I don't know what city you're referring to. I can absolutely look it up for you. Is probably going to be one where it takes longer. We had a client recently, and I think his naturalization probably took a year. And this was pre-coronavirus. We filed it right before COVID. And that's long. I mean, that's a long time to wait for U.S. citizenship. Here in Nordic, it's 6 months still. We're routinely seeing, we file the case and our client has the interview at 6 months. So it definitely depends on the office. If you put the city up, I can look it up for you. Or if you send me a message through Messenger, I can look that up for you. Here's the thing about processing times though. And I don't know, Registry, I don't know what you're looking at, but on the USCIS website, it gives this range, right? It gives a range of how long it's going to take your N-400 application to get to the interview. And sometimes the outer date of that range is 17 months. I haven't checked, again, I need to know the city, but if you are still within that range of date, and sometimes it can be 9 to 17 and a half months, you can't inquire about your case until you're outside of the processing times of the long range. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, I can look that up for you, Rajeshwari, if you want to just shoot me the city through Messenger, or I can try to do it while we're doing this Facebook Live. But thank you so much for that question. It's a good one. All great questions today. Let's see here. So I'm going to show Matt's question. This is a good question as well. Great questions tonight. Thank you guys so much for sending them in. This is what we're here for. Matt says, I was in a very abusive relationship and committed a misdemeanor because otherwise I would get beat, got charged with abuse of elderly. Can I or would I be able to become a citizen? So Matt, definitely, it depends on when the misdemeanor occurred. And, you have to have 5 years of good moral character. If you got your citizenship through marriage to a U.S. citizen and you're basing it on that, then it's going to be 3 years of good moral character. So again, it depends on when the misdemeanor charge occurred. And even if it occurred within the 5-year or 3-year good moral character period, you may still be able to file and get your citizenship application approved if your misdemeanor charge falls under the petty offense exception. And you've done a lot of petty offense exception.
Yeah, petty offense exceptions.
Yes.
We're looking for basically a charge where the maximum sentence that could have been imposed was not more than a year, and the sentence that you received was 6 months or less, even if it was 6 months in jail or less,
right?
Whether it was suspended or not.
Right.
Okay.
So yes, you can still apply for U.S. citizenship even if you have the misdemeanor. Sometimes we'll take a look at. We always take a look at the person's history and try to determine, is this the right time to file the naturalization application? Because you don't want to waste time and money if it's not. But you can absolutely still do that. We would just have to have more information about when that occurred and what the sentence was. Again, it doesn't have to be an active jail sentence. It could be a suspended jail sentence. So that's what we're looking at.
Right.
All right, let's see.
So you would be, just hypothetically, if the state charge that you were charged and convicted under contained an element of force that matches the definition of an element of force under federal law, and you received, say, a 12-month sentence that was suspended, then that could be a problem.
Right. Again, not ultimately a problem for the rest of your life, just for the next 3 or 5 years.
Right. Waiting period.
Right. And if you're in the military, then it's only one. So you can still apply. Don't give up hope. And again, I want to just remind everyone that we are not giving out legal advice today. We're not allowed to give out legal advice. We are giving legal education. Mm-hmm. We're giving some tips, but we can't give legal advice. But I hope that this is still helpful, and we're on the right track with answering these questions.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us, I'm John Gardner, and this is my law partner, Radlin Mendoza. And we
hi guys,
Gardner
again.
Do this every Sunday night. So if you're just scrolling and happen to find us and you don't have your question ready, then you can find us next week. All right.
Absolutely.
Or message us during the week.
Yes,
of course.
That's correct. And please follow us on social media, because I do think, we have gotten some positive feedback about our Facebook page, that it has helped them in our Facebook Live. So please share this with your friends, your family who may have immigration questions, and for whatever reason they don't, they just have one question and that's it. And it all starts with one question.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. So this is a little bit about what you were talking about here. Do you have any idea how long the bill is going to pass to the Senate and be approved? Good question. John,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have the crystal ball. Please answer that one.
I don't have the crystal ball. We were joined last week by our friend and colleague, Jim Tom Haynes, who is an immigration lawyer in Washington, D.C., and he had the same answer, which is, who knows? And I know that doesn't help or provide much encouragement, but here's the reality. We're very excited about immigration reform, but the reality is this big, huge bill hit the Senate. It was met with a lot of pushback right out of the gate. I think the folks in the House recognized that pretty quickly, and so they took their, like I said at the beginning, they took some language out of the Senate bill and then tracked it pretty closely and passed their own bills out of the House and then sent them to the Senate. The question now is, will those bills on their own, without all the other stuff attached to them, will they pick up any traction in the Senate? I just don't know at this point. They certainly have a much better chance of picking up traction in the Senate than the comprehensive bill did in its original form. And I think that's exactly why the House did what they did. So we'll see. We'll keep you posted. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not super optimistic at the moment, but it's a step in the right direction for sure. I'm just not liking the signals that I'm hearing out of Washington right now.
Right. And, you guys have to understand, John and I, we were optimistic in 2000 and 2002. We weren't in 2001, 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth. And maybe we stopped being optimistic, I think, after it was Bush, right? And that was almost so close. It was so close. We really thought we were going to get immigration reform. And that's when I started changing my tune, my consultations. I wasn't relying, not that we were relying on immigration reform, but we certainly talked about it. But we don't anymore. We're older, wiser.
Yeah, I just want folks, there's cautious optimism, but it's that at best. I just want folks to realize that this is a big lift for Congress, and it's very divided right now. Again, I think the smaller bills certainly have a better chance. Yep. And I think the fact that there's a lot of public support for broader public support. I don't want to say there's no public support for the broad Senate bill. There is public support for the broad Senate bill, but there's just broader and more diverse public support for these individual elements. And so we'll just keep our fingers crossed. Like I said, if you believe in this and this is important to you, I think the most important thing you can do is pick up the phone and call your congressperson, call their local office in your district, and call their Washington, D.C. office and tell them. Because I guarantee, I worked for a congressman when I was in college one summer. That was my job, was to tally all the calls on the hot issues. So we were paying attention.
That sounds like a fun job. All right. Okay. Let's see here.
Actually, it was kind of fun. It was a fun summer.
January. Okay. Rajeshwari says that it's in Fremont. I'll have to take a look at that when you start talking again. But applied in January of 2020. So yeah, that's now 14 months. It's out there. It's out there. Well, I'll take a look at that again. If it's still within their processing times, unfortunately, you will have to continue to wait. Rajeshwari, if it's outside of the processing times for USCIS, absolutely start squeaking that wheel and getting in touch with USCIS, putting in service requests, and even getting in touch with your congressperson to get some help on that. That would be my number one bit of advice for you, Rajeshwari, if you are outside of processing times on their website, USCIS website, to get in touch with your congressperson. And folks, this is why John and I have really just tried to drive this message home. And that is to please, if you have a case, file your case. Here you see a naturalization case, an N-400 that's been pending for 14 months. That's a long time. And so if you are in that part of the country where the processing time is longer and there's much more, just very, very busy, file your case, because it can take that long. We don't really know what is going to happen with variants of the coronavirus. I think if we all learned anything from 2020, that is to expect the worst, right? Unfortunately, I mean, it's a hard lesson, but and these processing times, these delays, a lot of USCIS offices, their officers aren't all 100% working in the office. Many of them are still working remotely. They're still trying out these different methods for testing people and doing virtual appointments. So that's going to cause delays. And plus, they still had to take care of a huge backlog from when their offices shut down for COVID. So please file your case now if you can, because it's that important. And whenever you file your case, that is the time and the date that you get in line. Okay,
Yes,
I'll
absolutely.
shut up about that now.
Yeah, and going back to the prediction about, remember the uphill battle in the Senate is that in the House, these bills can pass by a simple majority. When they get over to the Senate, they have to pick up at least 60 votes. They don't just get to pass it with a 51 vote majority. They have to get 60. They don't have to get 60 votes for the bill, but to overcome a filibuster, they have to get 60 votes to vote to end debate on the bill and then move it to a vote to pass or fail. So as long as there's a filibuster in the Senate, then any one senator can gum it up for a while. And unless you get 60 senators to vote to end the debate and move to a formal vote on the bill, then it's just gummed up. And so that's where my sort of some discouragement is at the moment.
No, it's going to be good. This piecemeal legislation is going to go through.
Yeah, it certainly has a better chance for sure. Absolutely. And speaking of the legislation, before we get to more questions, I did want to make sure to mention this. All of these new things will require that you be subject to a criminal background check. So if you're going to be seeking status through any of this new legislation, and of course there are criminal background checks in all current legislation or current law as well, but specifically with the new legislation, all the categories, you will be ineligible for them if you've been convicted of a felony or if you've been convicted of 3 or more misdemeanor offenses that did not occur on the same date and didn't arise out of the same set of facts. The exception to that is simple possession of marijuana or a marijuana conviction that was for an offense that is no longer prosecutable in your state. So if you were convicted of something that was illegal, marijuana related at the time, but if you had committed it today, it would be prosecuted, then that's an exception as well. There are some waivers that are going to be available. One is if one of the misdemeanors can be waived if the applicant has not had any new convictions in the 5-year period prior to filing the application. So if you went 5 years before filing this application without any new charges, then you can ask for a waiver, and it's subject to prosecutorial discretion to get rid of one of those misdemeanors to make you eligible. Similarly, 2 of the misdemeanors can be dumped by the waiver if there's been if you've had no new charges for the 10-year period prior to when you file the application. Okay, so those are the basics on the criminal charges, and they also would not include, because somebody asked about traffic, simple traffic offenses would not qualify, and at least under current law, no operator's license, which is a common one with our clients, does not count. It's considered a minor traffic charge, and presumably it would be the same under the new legislation. And again, going back to the very beginning, I also want to remind folks, because we've got some questions about this, under this new legislation, you would not be eligible if you're an existing lawful resident, a refugee, or have asylum, or are in a period of stay that is authorized. Okay.
Right.
So if you are in one of those categories, this is not going to apply to you at all. Okay. If you think this legislation may help you and you're pushing for it and it does get passed, you want to check to see what your criminal background situation is.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, most people know.
Yeah.
Most people know. Some people don't. Some people don't. Some people we have to do a whole FBI background check on because they don't know. But that is one thing that you may be able to do if you think that you may be eligible for this. A couple of things, actually. One, if you have not filed taxes, then we really recommend that you apply for your individual tax ID number, your ITIN, and file your taxes. That is something that you should do. And the other thing is, as John mentioned, if you have a misdemeanor, let's say you have one misdemeanor, you are going to have to get a certified disposition of any charge or conviction that you have if you're submitting to USCIS. So a certified disposition, you would go to the clerk's office or call the clerk's office and request a certified disposition, and they mail it to you. It's usually for $1 or $2. Mm-hmm. And if it was too long ago, then what you have to request a letter. You need the original letter stating that we no longer have this. We destroy files after 10 years, and it has to be from the clerk's office. So you still need something, even if the certified disposition is no longer available.
Right. Okay. And if you're applying under, just even current law, criminal convictions are always, make things more complicated. So I highly recommend, if you have any kind of criminal convictions in your background, that you consult with us, because it can be really complicated. It sounds pretty straightforward, oh, it's a felony, or I don't have a misdemeanor or a traffic offense. But what misdemeanor you were convicted of, what the sentence was that you received. Every state has different criminal laws, because criminal laws fall under state law and also federal law. And there's a comparison about whether there's federal law that is close enough in language to the state law, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of analysis there. So if you do have a criminal background, I would strongly recommend that you consult with us before you move forward with anything, quite frankly.
I was going to say, here's the thing. If you are not sure about what can be done with your immigration status, then you haven't spoken to an immigration attorney recently, right? Because an immigration attorney, we're going to be able to sit down, get all the facts of your case, and maybe this bill is not going to pass. It's not going to pass anytime soon to help you. Maybe you're not eligible for whatever reason, but maybe you could be eligible for something else. And so, a lot of times I do meet with people. A lot of times I meet with people and their employers, and the employers want to help. And I have to say, I'm sorry, we can't do anything right now. And I hate saying that, right? You're coming in, you're giving me, you're paying me a consultation. I still feel bad that I can't do anything, but you just sat there. But the people who meet with me, they don't feel bad at all, because they always leave and they say, at least I know now, right? At least I know. And I know what I can and what I can't do. And what I can do is I have to wait and, the things that you've asked me to do. So, if you guys have been watching us for a few weeks now, you know that John and I are currently watching Jane the Virgin, and I'm absolutely addicted to Jane the Virgin. And I'm about to spoil some stuff here. So if you don't want to hear this, you can close your ears and close your eyes. But the abuela, the grandmother in Jane the Virgin, she does not file her immigration case for 37 years? Mm-hmm. 37 years because of fear. She never even spoke with an immigration lawyer for 37 years. Now, of course, this is like the telenovela, right? But we've seen people like that. I've spoken to people like, well, why didn't you come to see? Well, because I was too scared. Don't be afraid to go and meet with an immigration attorney. Don't be afraid to call us and talk to us about your immigration case. We're here to help you guys, and we do not work for the government. Okay, I do get that question. Like, do you give this information? It is a confidential consultation, and there's no reason for you to be afraid.
And at least you'll know what the options are.
Right.
There are cases where there's nothing that can be done, but there are also cases where something can be done, but perhaps it's going to be a long wait. And we think, gosh, it's a shame if you had filed this 10 years ago.
Yes.
We could do it right now. It's unfortunate.
Yes.
So find out now what the options are. At least you'll know. And then if it's something that can happen, you can get in line. The better you get in, the sooner you get out.
Knowledge is power, even if you have to pay a couple $100 for it. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next question. Yeah. This is from our friend Janice. Hello, Janice. Nice to see you again. She wants to know how backed up the NBC is with their interviews at foreign countries' U.S. embassies. So every embassy, Janice, has a different timeline. It depends on how busy that embassy is, how far. It sounds like your case is, I think your case is out of the National Visa Center and just waiting for it to be scheduled. So everything just opened up. I believe it was early March. So I hopefully there, last week we talked, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the rephasing of interviews now that the ban on immigrant visas has been lifted. So we're already starting to see this happening at different embassies around the world. So Janice, if you, I may be able to look up some specific, just shoot me a message. We've spoken before, so shoot me a message. But they are, I mean, we're starting to see movement. I think that's the word on the street is the law firm is starting to see movement with our clients' cases, getting interviews scheduled that have been just stuck for the longest time. So thank you for that question. I'm sure a lot of people are asking that question. All right, let's see, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I think right there's one.
Okay. You know what? Before I grab that one, I'm going to, Registry says that she wants to make a short travel plan. That's why we want to know. So yeah, you don't want to leave the United States and then have your interview scheduled while you're out of the country. I totally get that. I totally get that. Sometimes, you know, I get this question a lot, and you already know this, but for those who are, you know, thinking about becoming a U.S. citizen, you don't have to remain in the country while your application is pending. So a lot of people are surprised to hear that they can do short travel abroad while their N-400 application is pending. And you can travel, but I understand your concern that, gosh, I don't want to travel and then get the interview notice and then I miss my interview. Well, a couple things about that. Number one, I don't know when your interview is going to happen. So I would say go live your life and travel if you want to travel. And two, if for some reason that timing is just terrible and you travel out of the country and you can't go to make it to your interview, you can have that rescheduled. And it does usually take another couple of months for it to be rescheduled. That's the news that you don't want to hear and probably why you want to stay put. But the other thing is that even if you go to your interview, you still probably have to wait to get your swearing in. I don't know how long Fremont is taking to get their swearing in ceremony. So in order to become a U.S. citizen, you do pass a test, but then you have to swear in to make it official and get handed your certificate of naturalization. And you are not a U.S. citizen until that point. So that could take another, 30 days after your interview. So hopefully that helps a little bit. All right. So Baldwin, she says, any option that my son can get a petition by my husband because he is over age now? Possibly. And I saw your message through Messenger. We would have to know some specific dates as to when the petition was filed and when it was approved, when it became available. I know you did leave a couple of dates with regard to the availability of it, but I would need the date of petition filing date and petition approved date in order to give you specifics to see whether your son is eligible under the Child Status Protection Act. So you can send that information to me. I'll be happy to take a look at it. All right. I had a whole thing prepared today about, marriage fraud, but we have so many great questions. So
yeah, that's really great.
Yeah,
the questions are really the main thing that we want to get to.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm scrolling to see if we have any questions. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
I don't think we have any questions. I'm super pumped up about all the questions that we got today,
Yes.
though, for sure.
Thanks for bringing it.
Yes, absolutely.
Appreciate
Bring it on a Sunday night. Yes. So one of the questions that we got through Messenger was whether a person who is HIV positive can become an immigrant, can still immigrate to the United States. And this is interesting because I've gotten this question probably 3 times in the last 6 months. So I'm going to just address that question. And the answer is yes. The HIV was taken off of the list of communicable diseases. and it no longer renders an applicant inadmissible to get any type of visa to the United States. So that's good news. That happened in 2010. So that happened a long time ago, but this is still on some people's minds. So hopefully that answers that question. And going back, like I said, I put in the event calendar that we were going to be here until 9. So we're going to be here until 9. Going back to our favorite show of the moment, Jane the Virgin. So again, spoiler alert, guys, spoiler alert. There's a lot of great immigration stuff in Jane the Virgin. And every time it comes up, we talk, we pause and we're like, that's not really, does that really happen?
Yeah, not all of it is perfectly accurate.
Right, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's pretty close.
But again, spoiler alert, Abuela, she marries her friend so he can get the green card. But they were romantic, her friend Jorge, but they were romantically involved. So John and I are just having the discussion. Well, I mean, would the immigration officer, take that into account? And so one scene is Abuela comes home and then Jorge, and it's a completely platonic relationship. It's a business arrangement, even though Abuela, Alba, is just totally in love with Jorge. But he's not. But they had something before, but he's no longer interested in her because she turned his proposal down 2 times.
Right. Marriage proposal.
Yeah. But so she walks into her home and there are 2 immigration officers standing there. They're not
that's
smiling.
Really not funny at all.
It's not funny. It is not funny. And it does happen. It does happen. So, and I also did a TikTok on marriage fraud because there was a one TikToker who made a joke about how Ukrainian women they want to get married in 1 month because they need their green card. So in both of these situations, I always want to talk about both of these situations. And John has also represented people who have been charged with marriage fraud, the foreign national, the beneficiary, and I think in both of these cases, they would find marriage fraud. If the Ukrainian TikToker tells Michael in this case that, I want to get, and this was a joke, right? She was teasing. I want to get married. I know we've only known each other for 1 month, but I need my green card. That's kind of a red flag there, especially the short period of time. That's
a hard case to defend.
That definitely, for sure. But the Alba Jorge one is a little bit more difficult, I would say.
I'm going to take that one to trial.
You're going to take that one to trial, yeah.
I'm going to roll the dice with the jury on that one.
Right.
If there's a federal indictment for marriage fraud, if it goes that far.
But I will say, though, that if Alba and Jorge came to me and they said, yes, we had a relationship, it didn't work out, we were only friends, and I'm just marrying him now because I want him to be able to go back to Mexico to see his dying mother, I don't think I would take that case. I mean, I know I wouldn't take the case.
No, and there's a difference between, when I said I would take it, I meant if there was a federal criminal indictment. I mean, I would defend it in a criminal case. That's a whole different situation.
That's a whole different situation, right? But if someone comes and says, "Hey, this is just a business arrangement," I'm not taking that case.
No, not taking
because that case is
agreed.
It's fraud. We don't do fraud marriage cases, but in this particular show, I think it's a 50-50 ball. If they were unrepresented and they went to the immigration and sort of lied about their relationship and submitted their fake letters and their pictures, I don't know. Would it get approved? I'm not sure. 50-50. So it's interesting that the USCIS officers were there. The fraud unit went to their house. So there was there's a tip off, right? They don't typically go because they had not gone to their interview yet. Like, you get referred to the fraud detection unit if you go to the interview and the officer's like, something is super fishy here. Go visit them and see if Jorge's shoes are in Alba's closet or whatever they look for. But here it was a visit before the interview, so there had to be some sort of tip off. Mm-hmm. Anyway, those are my 2 cents. Our 2 cents on the Jane the Virgin, Abuela Jorge relationship.
If it gets really ugly for them, then again, I'm gonna argue to the jury that that
Yes.
that the primary purpose of marriage was for non-immigration reasons. It was
Mm.
it was for companionship. It was to help each other in old age with tasks, friendship, and that the immigration benefit was just a collateral benefit that happened to flow from the marriage. But I would only take that's after the criminal indictment has been unsealed.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, we wouldn't want to start with that case.
I think
That's
that
not
Jorge and
fair.
Alba could trick me though. If they came to my office and didn't tell me about their arrangement, they could trick me because they have pictures, they work together. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. So if there are any Jane the Virgin fans out there and you have an opinion about this, you can let us know. Or next week you can pop a comment and let us know what you think.
The banter, we're also teaching, hopefully.
Yeah.
Don't commit marriage fraud. That's
No.
that's the bottom line.
Can't get married for an immigration benefit. That is not legal.
Okay, wait, we have some questions while we're going on and on about this. Oh, Janice, we hope we didn't. Janice loves it and thinks the abuela is very funny. All right, let's see here. So this is a question. I'm going to pop it up, but I don't know too much about it. It's
don't either.
how to file an adoption of a Filipino baby in the Philippines. So that is a adoption law, Philippines adoption law question. We do have a lot of clients who have filed adoptions and have adopted baby. And the other part of this question, is it difficult to adopt a baby in the Philippines? I'm going to say from what I have seen from the paperwork, the documentation, the home studies, yes, it seems like it's challenging, but it's definitely not impossible to adopt it. Obviously, it's not impossible to adopt a baby in the Philippines. One thing to know though, and this happens a lot with our Filipino clients. They'll come to us and they'll say, "Hey, we adopted my sister's, fourth child because she couldn't care for the child, and we just wanted to help, and we want this child to be our own, and we're taking steps to adopt the child." Great, perfect. The adoption goes through, and then the U.S. citizens, they're Filipino American citizens, they go to file a petition for this child, and lo and behold, you have to show that you have had 2 years of legal custody of the child, which is fine. You can do that with the adoption. And also that you had to have lived with the child for 2 years prior to the child's 21st birthday. Now, I always thought that was 18, and I learned something new a couple of weeks ago. It's prior to the child's 21st birthday. That was very surprising to me. So what our clients have done is they will take long visits, and it takes them a long time. If you're working in the United States and you live in the United States and you have your life in the United States, it's a long time to get those 2 years. So if that is something that you are doing, lovely, then you have to actually be very, very vigilant about keeping great records, documentation, and making sure that with regard to the legal custody, you're making all of the important decisions. And I'm saying if this child is related to you in any way, shape, or form, which is typically the case. So in the immigration part of that is also challenging. It's definitely doable, but it's challenging. And I know in immigration, they give us a hard time about it. They want every single piece of paper, documentation, passport stamp to show that you have fulfilled that 2-year residency requirement. And again, if you're doing that in little chunks and spurts, it does take a lot of documentation. So going back to your question, is it difficult? Yes, it's difficult, but worth it. How about that? We'll end on that. And I don't see any other questions. And I believe we are 1 minute away from 9 o'clock. Everyone has been so amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm just doing a final review here. Yeah, I do not see any more questions. All right.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you back here next Sunday, same time.
Same place, 8 o'clock,
place.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please, please, please go and like our page, our Facebook page, so you can get notifications and updates. We're on all social media platforms. I just opened up a TikTok account for fun because I wanted to see what my kids were spending, all day long on TikTok. So now I'm spending all day long on TikTok. Just kidding. Just half the day. But it's been fun, and I'm just putting out very, very short informational videos about immigration, and love to see you on there and get your support. As always, again, we really, really appreciate you guys coming every week to hear us ramble on.
And shout out again to the Hindu Temple in Chesapeake.
Yes.
We were just so impressed. Thank you again for that, guys and ladies. Really appreciate it. All righty. So we are out, and we're in with our two thumbs up.
Up.
Have a great week,
Thank
everybody.
you guys so much.
See you
Take
next
care.
Sunday. All right. Take care.